After a polarising performance against Aston Villa in the FA Cup, before we look ahead to our EFL Cup final against the same opposition, we are finally back to Premier League action, with Chelsea taking on Liverpool at Anfield in game week 22. Lads, lasses and the rest of the masses, welcome to the lead-in. Let's set the scene here. Liverpool are top of the Premier League table. They have only lost one game out of 21 games this season so far, with 14 wins and 6 draws. Whilst they have lost other games in European competition, so far they have been the overall best team in the league, and are currently on a 22-game unbeaten run at Anfield, where this match is set to take place. Chelsea, on the other hand, do not boast this exceptional record, but do come into this one as one of those teams that took points from Liverpool, and in that reverse fixture, we arguably deserve to win the game more than they did. If we look at the other teams that have taken points away from Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, Tottenham, Man United, Brighton and Luton Town, with the exception of Luton, all these teams have one thing in common. They are all teams that like to play possession-based, attacking football, the same as Chelsea. It's no surprise that the other members of the so-called Big Six are the only teams Liverpool have really struggled against so far, with a few outliers of course. Chelsea also have a pretty good record against the bigger teams, but before we delve into the Blues, let's take a brief look at how Liverpool could line up in this match against us. Firstly, let's talk absentees. Liverpool have a decent chunk of players not available for this match, with Joel Matip, Stefan Bajcetic, Kostas Tsimikas, Thiago Alcantara and most importantly Mohamed Salah all suffering from injury. Wataru Endo is currently away with his native Japan for the Asian Cup, so he isn't available either. Alexis McAllister was injured for the Norwich game but seems fit enough to play in this one, as are Trent Alexander-Arnold, Andy Robertson and Dominik Szoboszlai, who are substitutes in that match. I'll be putting Jurgen Klopp's side into their 4-3-3 as always, but this will change in game and I'll talk about that in a moment. So first up in goal, arguably the best goalkeeper in the league, up steps Brazilian Alisson Becker. The defence is going to be back to a more standard back four for this league game, with the aforementioned Trent Alexander-Arnold comfortably slotting back into the right back spot. The two centre backs pick themselves in all honesty, with Ibrahima Konate on the right and Dutchman Virgil van Dijk on the left. Over on the left hand side will be the ever energetic Scot Andy Robertson. In the midfield, this will change ever so slightly. Despite McAllister being ready to come back, I wouldn't expect him to start, so in the deeper / central role of the three, I'm going to be putting in Curtis Jones. For the more advanced midfielders, let's start on the right hand side where I believe Dominik Szoboszlai will make his return. Finally on the left will be VVD's international teammate Ryan Gravenberch. For the three up top, I think this picks itself in all honesty. With Salah out, I'd be shocked if the informed Jota and Nunez didn't start, and I'd personally fill in that Egyptian shaped hole with Diaz. The front three is fluid and can swap positions, but I'm going to line them up the same way these three did versus Bournemouth, with Luis Diaz on the right, Darwin Nunez on the left, and finally Diogo Jota down the centre. As I said, just a brief overview of what I expect their team to look like. I'm not going to go into much more detail as we've played them before, but I'll touch on a few things in a little bit later. Instead, let's quickly take a look at how Chelsea could line up. I'm going to be predicting what I expect to see from Pochettino as always, and then give my personal lineup afterwards like I did last time out. So we'll be lining up in the 4-2-3-1 as usual, and first up in goal will once again be Georgia Petrovic. Another great performance and a clean sheet for the Serbian versus Villa, and even with Sanchez returning to training, I don't expect him to start over the youngster. The back four is going to be close to what started versus Middlesbrough in my opinion, so starting with the right back, it will be another stint at full back for Axel Disasi. Malo Gusto has returned to training but likely won't be fit enough to start here. The two centre backs will return to a partnership that we've seen in the past but not often, with Thiago Silva and Benoit Badiashile in the right and left centre back spots respectively. Levi Colwill was recently injured and I don't think he'd be risked here personally. Finally, over on the left will be Ben Chilwell, captaining the side from the start after his minutes were managed against Villa. The two holding roles usually pick themselves, and I think they will again here. Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo start once more. Ugochukwu and Lavia are still nowhere near a return it seems, but there could be small appearances in these roles for one of either Carney Chukwuemeka, who returned from injury recently, or the ex-Leicester loanee Cesare Casadei, who was recalled a few weeks ago and should be ready to play if Poch opts to use him. The three in front of them is less obvious though, but I'm expecting Poch to go back to his comfort zone, with Cole Palmer playing off the right, Conor Gallagher playing in the centre, and Raheem Sterling playing on the left. Christopher Nkunku is back in full team training, so hopefully we get to see him back on the pitch soon too, but I think this game is a reach too far unfortunately. Finally, down the centre I see a return for Armando Broja, as we severely missed the presence of a striker last time out versus Villa. Nicholas Jackson's Senegal team has literally just been knocked out by the Ivory Coast as I'm writing this script, and though he won't be able to feature here, we should see him return in time for the Wolves game, hopefully. This is what I am expecting, but what would I personally change? Well, I do like large parts of this team, but there are areas that I don't agree with, the main one being the use of Conor Gallagher in this central role. I don't think Conor is technically sound enough to play in this role from the start, and thus I'd rather see Cole Palmer play here, with Noni Madueke staying in the side. However, what I would personally do is a bit wacky, so let's have some fun with this one. We saw from our game against Liverpool earlier in the season that our 3-2-5 worked really well, so I'm going to suggest that we play 3-2-5 here. We now have the players capable to do so, so this is what our lineup could look like. Disasi, Silva and Badiashile as the 3 centre-backs, Enzo and Caicedo as the 2 midfielders, with Chilwell wide left, Sterling/Madueke wide right, and the 2 inside forwards being Carney returning to the side, and Palmer with Broja up top. Though this team isn't particularly defensive, and I'd expect us to only play this if Gusto was fit enough to play, I think we could seriously cause some issues with this system considering how well we did last time, and with the added bonus of having an elite creator like Cole Palmer in the side now, I think he could be the difference between us drawing again and us winning. So those are my predicted lineups, and I'd like to hear from you guys too, so for today's question of the day, answer me this. Which player do you predict will be our player of the match in this one, and why? Let me know in the comments below with QOTD at the start as always. Now let's talk about the game plan. I think that after the game against Villa, we can safely say that creating opportunities against high placed sides in the league is not an issue, so I'll make the same point I made for that match for this one. The most important thing for us is to be clinical. We've seen in recent matches that Liverpool's forwards have been converting chances for fun, even the often polarising figure of Darwin Núñez has been tucking them away neatly for an extended period now. Against Aston Villa we were bailed out by Petrovic's heroics, but we can't rely on that every game, we must score our chances. We will have to make those chances though, so let's look at how I believe the best way to open up this Liverpool side is, and to do that we need to firstly look at how their team lines up in game. As I said before, this 4-3-3 doesn't stay like that for very long. They like to invert Trent Alexander-Arnold into midfield where his creativity can shine. This makes the infamous box midfield that I've spoken about in the past. This 3-4-3, or rather 3-2-2-3, is very balanced, overloads the midfield areas, but does sacrifice numbers out wide. In a way, this is very similar to that 3-2-5 that I spoke about earlier, except the extra 2 players are in central midfield rather than out wide. Chelsea can exploit this because we are a team with a large focus on utilising the wide areas rather than opting to play through the middle, and that's exactly what we did against Liverpool in the last meeting between the two clubs. We ignored the superior numbers in midfield and instead we played long to the wide areas from the back. Once it was there, we created 2v1s out wide and used them to get players into advanced positions near the byline for cutbacks and crosses, and created a number of chances from this very idea. For the most part, we did this with Sterling and Reece James, but with Disasi in the right back role for this game, it makes sense that we opt to play the ball to the opposite side with Chilwell and Sterling instead. Though Axel can play as a marauding fullback, as we saw against Middlesbrough, I think it's best if he sticks to his defensive duties against a side like Liverpool that are seriously dangerous on the transition. It's funny actually, because 3 of the players that performed so well against Liverpool last time, Disasi, Chilwell and Enzo, are once again all fit to start here, and these 3 could be vital to our success. Chilwell especially caused Liverpool's defence some issues, with his runs in behind causing a lot of problems. We all know the vulnerability that Liverpool have on that right hand side, with Trent not being the most defensively responsible fullback, and with the high line that Liverpool like to employ, bypassing the entire team with long passes in behind from either Colwill, Silva or even Enzo could be the ticket to unlocking this Liverpool team. Obviously that's much easier said than done, and our team will have to give it their all, especially against a Liverpool team that has had less days of rest/preparation for this game. We were very high energy against Villa despite the lack of days to prepare, and it brought us a lot of value, so we need to keep that up. Work harder than Liverpool, which admittedly is a difficult task in the first place, and then the opportunities will arise. When they do, we have to take them, or Liverpool will just absorb the pressure, break on us, and score. It's what they do, and what they've done all season to great success. I think it's also worth mentioning how terrible our away record is. We've only got 4 wins from 10 matches away from Stamford Bridge, and with the Luton game at Kenilworth Road being the outlier, we have lost 5 of our last 6 away games. Coming to Anfield of all places will be a very difficult task, especially considering the recent news. Oh, did I forget to mention the elephant in the room? Jurgen Klopp is leaving Liverpool at the end of this season, and you know all that's going to do is motivate the Liverpool fans and players to get him a final league title before he leaves. This game would keep them ahead of the chasers if they win it, and we could be the spoilers if we are up for it. It's notable that Chelsea vs Liverpool holds the record for the fixture with the most number of draws in a row between Premier League sides in history with 7, and this could very well end up being 8 if either team is stubborn enough. For a score prediction, I'm going to be relatively realistic here and say that Chelsea will win this game 3-2, with the Blues finally getting a win here rather than a loss. Our goals will come from Sterling getting a goal against his former club, Cole Palmer as usual, and I reckon Caicedo scores a long-range effort. For the Reds, I think Luis Diaz will bag a brace. I think this will be an open game, fun to watch from a neutral's perspective, and hopefully won't end in a draw like last time. We'll have to wait until tomorrow to see if my predictions are correct, so until then I recommend watching one of these 2 videos on screen, and subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, in the rain, or in the dry, keep that blue flag flying high. Come on you Blues!